Hello, this is Jazz and Samba Conversations, a show where I bring a master musician to play with me and to talk about their love for jazz and Brazilian music. I am Samuel Martinelli, and this is part one of a show where I'm inviting one of the best jazz bass players in the world and a dear friend of mine, Marcus McLaurine. Marcus is well known for being Clark Terry's bass player for more than 30 years and has shared the bandstand with Dizzy Gillespie, Hank Jones, Count Bass Orchestra with Thad Jones, Abbey Lincoln, and many others. We sat down for some food and wisdom at one of his favorite restaurants in Queens and had a conversation about his career and about his experience in playing jazz and Brazilian music after our live concert at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem featuring the great pianist John DiMartino.
And so I get this phone call and says, is this Marcus McLaurine? I said, yes. He said, this is Clark Terry. He says, oh yeah, right, sure, yeah. This is Clark Terry, He says, I have a gig a week at the Blue Note and I have a week up in Quebec City, Canada. Can you make it? He said, let me check my book, I said, yeah, absolutely. He says, okay, I'll see you next week. Click. No rehearsal, no nothing. I said, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Got this one gig up at this club called Lickety Split in Harlem. So we did the gig, and on the break, he comes and says, Melba Liston's here, and she actually wants to meet you. I didn't know who Melba Liston was. I said, sure, I'll meet her. So I go over, and she says, I really like your playing. Would you like to join my band?
How long were you living in New York City at that time?
I had only been maybe at the max a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I hadn't been here that long. I was still relatively.
So you had a good foundation during your military time playing bass.
I was playing all kinds of stuff. I was playing like concert band music. I was playing. I used to play in marching. I used to march with the bass drum in Fifth Avenue on Veterans Day parades.
So you met Melba on that night, and you told me that you got into her band, and then a few weeks later, you guys were playing at Carnegie Hall. That Dizzy sat in, right?
We actually played Carnegie Hall, and Dizzy sat in with the band. It just came out of nowhere, coming from the side stage. And he got that rain stick with all the symbols on it, and he's like, comes on the bandstand, and he's like playing with the band, because I think I told you, Melba used to arrange for his band, for his big band, and she was a great trombonist and arranger. And Dizzy loved Melba. Little did I know, I didn't know at the time. Fast forward to the end of that year, like December, we weren't working that much. But Clark Terry calls Melba. He says, Melba, I need a bass player. Who can I call? She says, call my bass player, Marcus McLaurine. I remember getting to the gig, Blue Note, and not knowing what we were going to play. And that's one thing about Clark. You never know what you're going to play. There's no set list or no nothing. He just starts playing, and you better be right there. And so he says, at the end of the gig, he says, okay, I'll see you tomorrow night. See you tomorrow. Okay. I said, oh, wow. Okay, cool. So he must have heard something that he liked, And And so I
So you did the whole week at Blue Note,
did the whole week.
and then you,
we
right
went
after that you traveled to
Quebec,
Canada.
to Quebec City, Canada. Yeah, did that week, and then after that it was smooth sailing. You know, yeah. I don't know smooth, but we were sailing anyway. He's a real mentor. You know, I learned so much just being in his presence. I mean, and I think I told you, like, when you get on the bandstand with somebody like that, it's not like, you know how you do regular gigs and you just kind of just play and everything is cool. But when you get on with somebody like that, it's like every second is critical. I mean, you have to be on all your P's and Q's. You have to be on your tippy toes. I mean, because you don't know what's going to happen. And
Especially in that case that he would call tunes that no set list and things like that.
There's no set list. And if you call tunes you don't know, you got to like learn quickly on the spot. You got to like really what they call it on the OJT, on the job training. You know, and I think that's what kind of like. When I think about it, Miles was like that. You know, they were very close. You know, and I can see. I think Miles probably got some of that from Clark.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about Brazilian music. You told me about the Cannibal Adderley album.
That record, yeah. I used to have that album. And what struck me about it, just the happy feeling it had. It just felt like a party. And that's what kind of struck me about it. I said, man, this seems like it's a very happy kind of music, you know. It wasn't common. It wasn't something you could hear much, like particularly like sambas. That wasn't so that particular record really caught my attention. That was the first time I think I really heard like Brazilian music.
And then also you talked about the classic Chicoria, Light as a Feather, that kind of exploded. Ayrton Moreira again.
That's what Ayrton was a real force in helping to bridge that gap between jazz and Brazilian music. You know, he was
and not getting out a little bit of the bossa nova, right? That was Tom Jobim and João Gilberto, but then expanded to a totally different direction with Chicoria because it became that fusion sound,
and exactly
the electric sound that was
coming. And you said the key word, fusion. It was a fusion between those two cultures. You know, between Brazilian sambas and straight ahead jazz merged. You know, and that's what happened with the Light as a Feather.
So Spain from that album. It's a Spanish kind of melody, kind of flamenco melody, but it's a Brazilian. It's a samba rhythm played, right by Ayrton with all the jazz language, improvisation, no language. So Chick was, and that album, 5 of those songs are like samba grooves, samba and bossa nova grooves.
It's funny because he went to a whole different direction, you know, at that time, you know. So it was totally like, how can I say, it was like trailblazing. It was that record is very, very pivotal in terms of like the movement of this music, you know.
And are there any other composers or albums, like Brazilian composers, Brazilian music albums that influenced your playing or your compositions, because you have some compositions that use samba rhythms, and we played on this concert Miracle Child.
Oh yeah,
which is
that's right. Yeah, and Ivar also has.
Yes.
I think it's because of that record, that Light as a Feather. I was so much influenced by that record, you know, and that it kind of somehow subconsciously seeped into my own writing, you know. So I think, because I know when I was writing that Eva, I was actually really kind of thinking of Chick Corea. I had that in mind, you know, and I could actually hear Chick playing. I'd love to actually wish Chick could have played it, you know. But yeah. So my mother had this record that she used to play when she used to clean the house. You know, she would be vacuuming and she would just put this record on. There are certain records she used to listen to, but this was one of them. Inside Betty Carter. And I remember the cover distinctly. It was a cover of it was like a cover of an X-ray, of a chest X-ray, with a superimposed like a red. Somebody had to like took a red Valentine heart and put it where the heart was, and with a background. It was a purple background. It was purple. You know, and this is.
I had to find that.
It's a classic recording. It's a United Artists recording. But they never told who the musicians were on the records. But this record is like phenomenal. These guys are like blazing. I mean, playing up tempos. There's this tune called Something Big. This tempo is probably one of the fastest up tempos I've ever heard in my life. And they burn it, it's blazing fast. So fast forward, this is like 63. That's about around when this recording came out. Fast forward, I'm teaching at William Patterson, okay? And Harold Mayburn is one of the professors there. So one particular evening, I drove him home. He needed a ride to Manhattan. I said, yeah, I'll drive you home, man, you know. So we're driving home. He says, Marcus, you know, I just got this reward. I just got this award for this record I did years ago with Betty Carter. I said, really? I said, what record? What was the name of the record? It's called Inside Betty Carter. I said, oh man, you got to be kidding! I've been trying to find out who was on this record for years. Now this one I'm talking. This is like in the Harold passed several years ago. This probably was like in like either the early 2000s or I'm not sure when he passed. But anyway, I said, man, you got to tell me who was bass and who was on drums. Bob Crenshaw was on bass, and the drummer. This is going to trip you out. The drummer was Roy McCurdy. The drummer that was on that Brazilian album,
the same guy.
That was Roy McCurdy on drums. Unbelievable record. You got to hear this record. It's like consummate Betty Carter. It's like, to me, that's like that to me, that record is the gold standard of Betty Carter.
Wow.
And that record, and Harold Mayburn is blazing on that record. The whole group is like, it's like, to me, the epitome of what this music is on that record.
Thank
Well,
you so much,
Thank
man.
you, man. Yeah.
Listen, we've matched almost 10 years ago, and we've been playing for 4, 5, and it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, totally,
Really.
man. Totally. Yeah, no, you're one of the.
And a lesson every time that we
It's always a pleasure,
playing
man.
together.
It's always. I never have to struggle when I play with you, man. I never have to struggle. I know it's.
That's great to hear.
Like
I'm not gonna get. I don't want to get in your way.
I'm always in good hands. I know when you understand. I said we're in good hands.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you.